Welcome to the Wake Before the Day podcast with my parents, Clark and Bobby. We're excited to talk about the Bible and the Holy Spirit adventures. Thanks for listening.
So today we're in Ephesians 5, and we're just going to share a little bit about what stuck out from us, and like we usually do, what we're learning about God, what we learned about ourselves, and really just how good He is.
Yeah. So Ephesians 5, what
I don't know, what did we say? Well, really the first couple of verses here. So I'll go ahead and read the first couple of verses. Be imitators of God, therefore, as dearly loved children, and live a life of love, just as Christ loved us and gave himself up for us as a fragrant offering and sacrifice to God.
Honestly, I don't know if we need to go much farther than that. That's kind of where I spend a lot of my time just wrestling with that. Like, what does it mean to be an imitator of God?
Yeah.
Write that.
And that's something too, like before we even got to like, how are we imitating, how can we imitate Christ? It was like, well, first let's understand what Jesus has done. And that's actually a little bit of what Ephesians is saying too. Recognize Christ's love and how he, as Christ loved us and gave himself up. And so really, before we can imitate, let's understand that. And then also just the Greek definition, love has, I think, is it 5 words?
Yeah, it's got many different words and definitions.
Phileo. So there's all these different words. But when it comes to like the heavenly love, we often talk about agape. And then the Greek word, how that literally means to will the good of another.
Yeah.
And so just kind of before we even got to practically speaking, how can we do this? Like, how are we being imitators?
Yeah.
Let's understand first that you're loved by Jesus Christ, who came to the cross from heaven to die, to be raised again. So let's understand that a little bit.
Selfless, sacrificial.
Yeah.
Like that's a biblical definition of love.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then what were we kind of saying? Like, what does that look like?
Yeah, after that, we're just asking ourselves really simply, so then what does it look like for us to be imitators of God and to be loving in life? And so we started running through these examples of Jesus and like examples of his life that we need to imitate because he's perfectly lived this out. And so one of the things that came to our mind was that Jesus had hard conversations. And it was actually because he loved people, he entered into those. Think about talking to Peter, like, hey, dude, you're going to betray me. We've been like best buds for a couple years now. You're going to betray. Like, that's a hard conversation.
Ooh, yeah.
And then it comes full circle to a restoration and bringing Peter back in. But Jesus entering, talking to the disciples, and confronting the Pharisees. Having hard conversations. Like, what does it look like for us to imitate Jesus and speak in love when people are unjust, and when people are speaking incorrectly, when people are harming someone else?
Yeah.
Imitate God and be an instrument of his love. Like, there's one example.
Yeah.
What was another one we had?
We talked about, how just the nature of Jesus' ministry, how it was literally the most inclusive, welcoming thing. Like, he had friends from every background and every occupation, and it was controversial at times because, this is so new and crazy. And so we talked about Mary, and just Mary, number one, being a woman, but also number 2,
had a bunch of demons in her at some point in time.
Was demon possessed.
Yeah.
And so it's like, okay. But what's interesting about those relationships is that they're called to him, they're welcomed in, and then in walking in step in relationship because of his love, they're transformed.
Yeah.
And so that was
So there's the age-old saying, come as you are, but you can't stay as you are. We can't stay as we are. We walk with Jesus. We're going with him. And what does it look like for us to imitate that today in such a polarizing time? So we have welcoming each other, praying for other people. Jesus was always praying and going off to solitary places in the mountainside. That can be an incredible act of love to dedicate 30 seconds or a couple of minutes to say, I'm going to pray for my friend or this person who needs healing or this person who's far off. That's the way we can imitate God and his love.
Yeah, and actually to go a step further right now in this conversation, I feel like that's something that Christian people would often say is that's maybe even Christianese language is, we're talking and then we end with, I'll be praying for you.
Yeah.
And so I just want to encourage you, do it, number one, pray for them. But then even if there's a moment in time where it's actually allowing you to pray with them right there, do that.
Yeah.
Set a reminder in your phone, literally a reminder, or 2 p.m. for the next 3 weeks or whatever it is. Good. And then follow up. Like if it's, hey, I just want to let you know. I feel like those are ways like in love, we're actually like you said, with the hard conversations and that kind of thing too, where there's meat and substance to, these words that we're saying.
For sure. So I think, as we wrap up today, I think we would say, what does it look like for us and for you listening or watching to be imitators of God's love? Mm-hmm. And think back through some of your favorite stories of Jesus and what was he doing? And what does it look like for us to receive his love and then implement that in our life right now? The rest of Ephesians 5, it talks to then marriage, but also light and darkness, and being a person who lives in the light. Step out of the darkness, live in the light, and we'll experience that, and it's an incredible gift. So I think that's all we have for you today from Ephesians 5. Again, if you want to subscribe or fill out some kind of review, it will help the word go and get more people reading the word. So God bless you, and have a great week.
The Lord bless you and keep you. Don't make his face shine on you and be gracious to you. The Lord turn his face towards you and give him his peace. Have a great day.